All right, we have made it through your first 3 steps, or your first 2 steps, excuse me, of business planning, and we're going to move on to your third step. So let's review what we've done thus far. We've looked at defining our why, finding our compass, what's at our gut, what gets us out of bed in the morning. And then the second part, and I know that you probably took a little bit to do it, was your business reflection, looking at where we've been the last 3 years, looking at the where your business is coming from, looking at your market segments, what type of buyers and sellers are you working with, and then the last piece of that was looking at what went really well this last year and what didn't go so well. And that was a lead up to our third section here. And our third section here is going to be doing a SWOT analysis. Now, you're probably asking, what in the world is a SWOT analysis? For those of you that don't know, SWOT stands for our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So it's important. It might sound cheesy to go through this process, but really, as we start, it'll make more sense as we get into our goal setting and start putting those goals on paper with our objectives and our strategies backing up the goals. What we need to look at is our SWOT analysis, both on ourselves and on the marketplace, what's going on around us, so we can then, as we're goal setting, strategize around that. Obviously, when we went through this process last year and we went through a SWOT analysis, I talked about things as we looked at opportunities and threats. We were and looking at the market, we were talking about low inventory. And I said, gosh, next year we've got this presidential election, and usually the market kind of goes a little bit wonky during a presidential election. Who would have known that we were dealing with a pandemic? So that was a threat that nobody knew that was going to happen. So again, we're going to look at this as it sits today and try to plan the best we can around those things going on outside of what we can control, to try to strategize around those and try to use those to our advantage the best we can. So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to give you some ideas on some thought starters on each of these categories. And then you're going to work through doing a SWOT analysis on yourself and on the market as well. So let's look first at strengths and how we can really define strengths. And as I've been doing this the last couple of years, usually after we do SWOT analysis, we bring everybody together and we talk about, what you came up with on these. For some reason, people have a hard time with their own strengths. If you have a hard time with this, ask those that are closest to you, your family, some clients that you've worked with. What do they think your strengths are? And write those down. Sometimes it's hard to think about our own strengths and write those down. So that would be a suggestion for you. But let's talk about what we need to put, or what some idea starters for strengths. So strengths really encompass everything you've done right or everything that you do well. So what are your personal advantages in real estate and in this business? What are things that are your strengths that translate well? I don't care if you've sold real estate for 13 years or 13 days. What are some strengths that you have that really lend themselves well to your real estate business? So let's talk about a couple of these. What differentiates you from your competitors? What makes you different? We talk a lot about, clients out there and people out there. On average, they know 7 real estate agents. There's 12,000 of us just in the Kansas City market. That's a lot of real people running around with a real estate license. Our friends, our past clients, those in our circle, in our tribe, they have a lot of options when it comes to real estate agents, right? So what differentiates you from your competition, from your competitors, from other people that run around with their real estate license? What makes you different and unique? What systems and tools are you using that play to those strengths, that make you a better real estate agent, that help you, that enhance those strengths? I want you to think about those when you think about strengths. And then what are you doing? Where are you investing your resources, your time and your money? Where are you investing that's paying off, that is working well? I go back to that last section of business reflection. What went well this last year? What paid off for you? Okay, strengths. Let's move on now to weaknesses. This tends to be on weaknesses. It just tends to be that people have a much easier time telling me all their weaknesses than they are their strengths. But let's talk about weaknesses here a little bit and how we maybe frame this best for this purpose of business planning and having a strategic plan. So these are the aspects of your life or your business that are really distracting you and have become hurdles for you hitting your goals. I can think of a really obvious one for many of you that have children. We're trying to balance right now educating our kids from home and having a professional life and a career. And how in the world do we do that? So we could maybe put that in our weakness column, that your time is divided right now between so many different things that it's hard to focus. But think about those type of things. What's keeping you from really hitting your stride in real estate? Next thing I want you to think about, and we've talked about this one, is what hurdles are you getting hung up on? Are there parts of the process or parts of the business that you just don't understand, or you just can't wrap your head around, and you need some help on it? We're going to put those in weaknesses, and when we get to our strategic plan, there's a place in there that we're going to come back to these and take a look at the tools and the training that could help you overcome these. Kind of a similar vein here, what systems and tools are you struggling with? What tools do we have? Are you struggling with HomeSuite? Do you need to get some extra help, some training on HomeSuite? Gmail, using Google Drive. What are some things that you think could maybe make you more efficient and thus make you more profitable that you're getting hung up on? And then what are you spending your time and money? What are you spending resources on, our time and money, that aren't benefiting your business, that maybe you've been spending money on for years and you really think about it and it's not been very fruitful. It has not brought you much success. It hasn't really lent to any business. Are there anything like that that you maybe need to take another look at and say, gosh, do I really need to be spending my money here? Or do I need to be devoting my time here? Your time is precious. It's one thing that you can never get back. Okay, so let's move on here to opportunities. And this is where we really start kind of talking about the strengths and weaknesses are really more personal. Our opportunities and threats are really more what's going on in the marketplace. So with opportunities, those are the factors that are going to allow your business to prosper. Are there any opportunities that you see right now in the marketplace? We've got rates that are low. We have a shortage of inventory, and it's definitely a seller's market. How long it'll stay that way, who knows? But does that provide an opportunity for you to go out and develop and nurture some sellers and some listings that you might be able to turn into some income in the next year? And then I want you to think too, when we think about opportunities, we talked about systems and tools, but what systems and tools are you not using that you maybe need to be using? Is there a time management tool if you're struggling with managing your time and juggling all the things going on in your life? Is there a tool that you can explore, whether it's something that you know is out there, or maybe it's just a topic that you need to do some research on it and figure out what system or tool is out there that I can use? But look at that as an opportunity. One might look at it as a weakness or a threat, but let's turn it into an opportunity. If you see something that's going on and you think, gosh, if I had that, I could be much more efficient and I could be more profitable. Well, what is it? What is that? And let's figure out how we weave that into our strategic plan to make you more successful. Do you have a plan to exploit your niche? That's an opportunity. I go back to the business reflection. Remember, I had you dig deep on your market segments, your niches, figure out what those are, and then how do you exploit those? Those are opportunities for you. I go back to that story I told you in part 2 about the agent that was completely off on who she thought her niche was. She thought it was downsizers, people that were getting ready to retire. And it was quite the opposite. It was their kids that she's getting most of her business from. So what can she do? That's an opportunity. She hasn't been marketing to them because she didn't even realize that she was getting all of her business from them. So what can she do to seize on that opportunity? What can you do now that you know what your market segments, your top 5 are? Maybe it's only a top 3 and that's fine, but you need to figure out what you can do to seize on the opportunity of those market segments, seize on the opportunity of where your business is coming from. If you've figured out that your business is all coming from your relationships and your involvement in the PTO, what can you be doing to get more involved with that? How can you maximize your time that you spend on that? And then the last thing that I would say on opportunities are, what have you seen or what are you seeing your peers do that they've had success with, that you can duplicate? The R&R, rip off and replicate. It's what we love to do in our business. And gosh, that's one of the most amazing things about this company is that we've got a great tribe of agents and a great culture of collaboration, and people are willing to share and willing to tell you what they're doing, what they've spent money on that has been successful or time, and what hasn't been successful. Look at what those around you are doing, especially for your newer agents. Grab somebody that's been in the business for 3 to 5 years that's been successful. Find out what they did in year 1 or 2 that got them to that next level. That's an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity. When we start getting together, and once we go through this process, we're going to start getting together in these small groups. And this is really where we're going to start sharing. And some of the things that we're going to share are the opportunities and the threats that you're going to write down and go through. And we're going to make sure that you're capitalizing on those in your strategic plan, and that we have a plan in place to capitalize on our opportunities and to work around our threats. So let's talk about threats here. Threats are the external factors beyond your control that could limit your business success. If you had done this SWOT analysis in March, you probably would have had in big capital letters, Corona, the Rona. Nobody saw that coming. That was something completely out of our control that we then had to strategize around. And some of you have done that masterfully. You've shifted your business to total virtual environment. You've been able to continue to foster the relationships you have, even though with your COI, even though you can't get face-to-face with them, you've gotten really creative with your marketing. And others are still struggling with that. Again, that's why we're going to come together and kind of brainstorm and talk about these ideas so you can really get a sense as to what other people are doing and how can you maybe duplicate it. But let's talk about some other threats here and how we frame this. Are there market conditions that are going to negatively affect you and affect your business? Is there something going on in the marketplace? Last year when we did this, like I mentioned earlier, we were talking about it being a presidential year, election year, and that oftentimes will stifle the market a little bit. Is this year with Corona and with the stay-at-home orders, we've seen the market shift and our business cycle shift. Will that continue next year? If so, what are you doing to strategize around that? Will the spring market happen even earlier because so many people last year kind of missed out on it, and maybe they're hanging on and waiting until next spring to sell? Well, it's November. What are you going to do to capitalize on that early spring market, which has been hitting earlier and earlier? I mean, we've seen it hit as early as, the first week of February, we start seeing those listings jump. Now is the time to start capitalizing on that and start strategizing around what you can do to maximize that. But think about other market conditions, rates being low. Read the trades, read the industry news nationally, read the economists. What do they think rates are going to do? Nobody has a crystal ball, but you don't want to be caught off guard with these threats. So you really want to look outside of just your world. What's going on out there that might threaten your business? And how do we strategize around that? That's the name of the game here. And that's kind of what I just said about minimizing threats. How we minimize threats is to strategize around them. How are you going to handle the last thing I have on here? How are you going to handle the threats that you cannot control? How are you going to handle those that you can control? What are we going to do to strategize around it? So when you get to, I think it's page 6 in your workbook, I've got all of those bullet points at the top. They're really small. I apologize. I was trying to make the workbook as concise as I could. And then I've got this graphic on the bottom of there. If you need another page, by God, use another page here. Use some scratch pieces of paper or something that you can throw into your business plan when you start doing this SWOT analysis. It's really important. Give yourself time to do this. Don't try to do it in 5 or 10 minutes. Don't rush through it. Give it some thought. And sometimes it might take you a couple days as things kind of come to your mind. Jot them down. Jot them down. We're going to use these as we get into our next section, which is going to be our goal planning and our goal setting. So we're going to look back on this SWOT analysis and say, how do we maximize? How do we take advantage of those strengths and opportunities that you have? And what can we do strategically to turn those weaknesses and threats into some opportunities, or strategize around those? Maybe a threat is your ability to speak publicly, or your ability to go, you're really uncomfortable going to knock on doors and farm a neighborhood. You're really uncomfortable with technology. Well, we're going to weave those into your strategic plan to figure out how we can maybe either hire somebody to do that, or get you training and some resources to help you overcome those things. So again, our next section is going to be goal setting. We've made it through the first 3. The first 3 are really more about looking back, gathering all of this information to make the goal setting much easier and much more, add some meat and some clause into our business plan. Our business plan is not just going to be a volume goal written on a piece of paper and slapped up on a wall. If you haven't figured out by now, it's going to be comprehensive. And all this work you've done in those first 3 steps are going to help us as we get to the goal setting and the strategic plan, to make sure it's comprehensive, to make sure that you have a very detailed roadmap of what you need to be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to get to that goal at the end of the year. All right. Page 6 of your workbook, SWOT analysis. Again, take some time. Do not rush going through this. Don't rush going through this. You really need to sit down and give it some thought. I will get back to you on part 4. We're going to come back together and we're going to dive in to goal setting. There's some meat here, a lot of meat on this one. All right. Have a good day, and I will see you on the next one.